Guys, um, so I've decided to do this update about two string changes as well. So this is about the fifth and sixth string change. And the reason is because actually it's not changing that much from week to week, in the sense that even though the fistula is getting a lot smaller, the string change itself, it's pretty much the same each week. So, yeah, I basically go there and I go at the same time each week, and the doctor checks the wound, which is very small by now, basically the fistula opening. Make sure everything's okay, and then he changes the string. And changing the string, I'm fairly certain that the first string is attached to the second, and it's just pulled through. Anyways, you can kind of feel it pulling through for a few seconds, and that is definitely uncomfortable, but I wouldn't really even say it was painful. And generally we're like having a conversation during that time, so my mind is kind of on the like it only really lasts a few seconds. And at this point, it's not even cutting through muscle anymore. It's basically just the last bit of, I guess, fat and skin kind of thing, like towards the edge. So the string has worked its way pretty far out, and I'm hoping that I only have one string change left. I have my flight in like 2.5 weeks, so and he says that I should be done by then. And generally he does wound care afterwards for a while as well, after the last string comes out. And he says that my string is likely to come out by itself, which I hope it happens. Otherwise, he might cut basically the last skin, if he feels like that's what's best. But the string should just fall out on its own once it's worked its way all the way out. So at this point, the original fistula that, like the two branches that I had when I came here, are no longer there. That's been broken down and dissolved and made basically into healthy scar tissue. So the fistula tract itself has already been destroyed. However, as it works its way out, of course, the fistula gets tinier and tinier. So at this point, there's not even going through the muscle. It's just the string is so, it's hard to tell because of the camera, but maybe like a 1/4 of a centimeter deep kind of thing. So that's how shallow the fistula now is. It's working its way out to the surface. And every week the loop gets tinier. And it is a bit loose. Today is Wednesday, and I had my string change on Saturday. So it's still a few more days to go, so we'll see how tiny that string gets this week. So yeah, it's, even though I still say that it's a fistula, the fistula tract itself has already been destroyed. Now it's a matter that the string is working its way out. I think of it kind of like if you got a splinter, that the splinter would gradually work its way out to the surface until it breaks out, comes out the skin. Probably everyone has had a splinter, but generally that's what happens. So that's kind of what's happening with this string. And that's why it doesn't really feel like much, because it's they call it cutting, but it's actually very gradually moving. So I don't feel that string moving because it's moving very slowly, and it's not a painful thing. I think it depends on the tightness and whether it's going through muscle. There was that one week a few weeks ago where it did have some soreness, but That's the only week that it's been sore, and that I imagine that there might be some discomfort associated with the wound afterwards. I'm not sure, but I doubt that the string is going to hurt because it's not going through muscle anymore. It's just going through this very tiny portion of like fat and skin tissue that's just at the surface before the string gets out. It's already passed through the muscle. Yeah, and at this point, so before when I would go, I hardly ever touched the string, so I've been going for daily dressings this entire time, which is unusual, I think. And I'm glad because the nurse has been taking care of it for me, so I haven't been doing very much at all. So I haven't been worrying too much about taking care of it myself. And yeah, so but before when I went to try to move the string, it did kind of hurt. Like it wasn't like I was gonna faint or anything, but it was definitely uncomfortable, and I definitely didn't want to do it, to move the string back and forth. So now I can move the string. I just checked to see what it feels like. I wasn't told by the doctor to move the string, but a nurse did suggest that I did it at one point, so I was like, I'll try it. But then I was like, no, I don't know. So anyways, I've been moving it sometimes just to see what it feels like, and now at this point, it doesn't really feel like much of anything. So whereas before it was a bit sore to move that string around, like it wasn't unbearable, but it was like I could feel it. Now I can't even really hardly feel it, so I think that's a good indication that the healing is pretty thorough. Like it's not very sensitive to that kind of thing, and it's also quite shallow. So now I'm just hoping that the string falls out soon, yeah, and that's pretty much the update. It doesn't really have discharge. I used to have a piece of gauze that I would just kind of put there, but I stopped doing it because I don't seem to need it. Also, most of the time I do have the dressing on because I go in the early afternoon and then keep it on until the next morning. So most of the time there is a dressing there anyways, but during the time when there isn't a dressing, I really haven't been noticing discharge. So there would be very little or nothing. I am thinking it's probably just very little, maybe because there is a wound, but I haven't noticed anything. So even though I haven't been like specifically checking, and it's a bit less noticeable here because people clean with water instead of toilet paper, so I haven't been like checking that much, and maybe I just don't want to know, but I haven't noticed anything, so it can't be much if it's anything. Yeah, so that's my update. I hope that there's some information, or maybe it's just comforting to know that it's so uneventful that I hardly even know what to say. And yeah, I'll let you know when the string comes out, whether it falls or cut or whatever, and how that wound is afterwards. And also about the scarring,